So I had a lot of scraps left over from my last project, and I thought it would be kind of interesting to try something new that I've never done before, and that is just put some of the scraps together and see if I can make some interesting patterned wood for my next project. So here it is, that's the start. It's all glued up and dried, and now I've got to get it down to a size that it can fit on my jointer. Let's get started. I really started to enjoy planing the surfaces to prep them rather than sand. Now that I figured out how to sharpen my blades properly, it does leave a really nice surface. So the method I use to resaw is to take progressive passes on my table saw uh, and up to about halfway or a little bit less than halfway, flip the board over and then do the other side up to a little bit less than halfway, and then I just take it to the bandsaw and cut the little piece that's left. I definitely have a lot more success this way and less frustration. Now just clean up those faces, and I'll also hand plane those as well. Okay, so for the next step, I need to put some grooves here for the box, and then eventually I'll come back and cut the miters on these, but I'll do both boards, cut all the grooves, and then do the miters. So what I've done is I've set up myself a little bit of a drawing here just to orient myself and make sure that I remember which grooves are in which order from the fence out, so just so that I don't mess it up. And here I've set up my sacrificial fence because that first groove needs to go right up to the edge. And here you can get a good look at those grooves that I just put in, and I just need to clean those up a bit because the saw blade left some marks. Now, I don't have the best blade on my table saw, and it's probably a bit dull, to be honest. And that also leads to problems when I'm cutting miters. So I find that if I first mark the miter, score it on one side, and then put a board on top of it, hold the whole thing down very tightly on my sled, I find I get really, really nice results that way. Now with the miters cut and the grooves cut, I can test fit it. I've put a bottom on there to fit in the groove on the bottom of the box, and then I'll also check everything for square. And to glue it up, I've just got the outside of the box exposed there. I've pushed it up against my fence there to keep everything straight while I tape up the corners. And then in the next step, I'll flip that over, apply the glue, and clamp it up. So I forgot to film cutting the box top off. And essentially what I did, I used the table saw and cut on the outside of the box to the left of that arrow. And I don't cut all the way to the base of that groove. I cut almost all the way, and then I use a knife to cut the rest of the way through it. And to put the splines in the side, I use a jig on my table saw, and the thickness of the blade is the same thickness as the spline. So here I'm just taking some walnut that is milled down to the same thickness as my table saw blade, and I put those into those cuts that I just created on the corners with some glue, and then I just cut it off with my trim saw. Now that I've got the lid off of the box, I'm going to be filling the lid with a Japanese Kumiko pattern called kakuasa. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. And I'm going to do this all with maple, and I'll do it all with hand tools. So the outside square is just a simple half lap joint, and the middle pieces, the diagonals and the key, all require some special angles. So the two small diagonal pieces require a 67.5-degree cut about a third of the way across the thickness, and then a 45-degree cut for the other 2/3 of the thickness. And the key, that one piece there, has 45-degree angles on all four edges, and then at the bottom, those small diagonals have 22.5-degree, which makes 45 degrees, and then the large diagonals have 45-degree angles cut on them. I'm in no way supportive of Remarkable, but I happen to use one quite a bit for my furniture design. It's pretty easy to copy and paste the different drawings that I have and make modifications, remove features, and add new features in. And the reason that this is important for making Kumiko, I found, is that I can actually trace the box directly, or the square that I'm putting the pattern into, directly onto my Remarkable, and measure right off of the drawing. Getting the right length for the pieces is super critical, and I just found this to be an easy way to do it. There's a ton of videos out there showing how this is done. You can see here you've got this block that has the correct angle. This is the 67.5-degree angle that I talked about earlier, and I just use a very sharp chisel to come across this maple. And I found that the trick here is not only the length of each of the pieces, but a very, very sharp chisel. So here I'm inserting those two smaller diagonal pieces. When you get the 67.5-degree angles together like that, like shown here, you can sort of push them back and they snap into place. And then all I have to do is put in the key, which has 45-degree angles on both ends, and that holds it all together. And there it is. It's got a coat of shellac on it and some wax. I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out, given that this is the first time I've ever created a box like this using scrap wood, and also the first time making Kumiko.